Good evening. Welcome to our January 24th, 2023 special board meeting, work session, and executive sessions. Mr. Tornello, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Bear,
Here.
Mr. Reedy. Here. Mr. Roskis.
Here.
Mrs. Schatzman.
Here.
Mrs. Menser.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Moving on to item 2A, approval of agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve our agenda?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Madam President, I move to approve our agenda.
Do I hear a second?
Madam President, I second the agenda.
Discussion? Mr. Tornello?
Mr. Reedy.
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman.
Yes.
Mrs. Menser.
Yes.
Mr. Roskis.
Yes.
Mrs. Bear.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Moving on to 3A, ESC Finding Leaders Contract. Do I hear a motion to approve the ESC Finding Leaders Contract?
Madam President, I move to approve 3A Finding Leaders Contract.
Do I hear a second?
Madam President, I will second that motion.
Discussion?
I just wanted to make a quick update that our search is underway and we have focus groups next Tuesday, January 31st in this building on the 3rd floor at 7 p.m.
I did have a question about that. Because some people had talked about the conflict of the times in the morning. I thought that was in the evening, 7 p.m., not 7 a.m.
7 p.m. is open to everyone in the community. There are some staff sessions during the day. There's also an additional staff session that's been added at 4:30, and at 7 p.m. staff are also welcome for their
Okay.
own session.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Mr. Tornello?
Mrs. Bear.
Yes.
Mr. Reedy.
Yes.
Mr. Roskis.
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman.
Yes.
Mrs. Menser.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Moving on to item 3B, renewal levy resolution. Do I hear a motion to approve item 3B?
Madam President, I move to approve item 3B renewal levy resolution.
Do I hear a second?
Madam President, I second the renewal levy resolution, item 3B.
Discussion?
I think we talked about it enough last time.
Mr. Tornello?
Mrs. Menser.
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman.
Yes.
Mr. Roskis.
Yes.
Mr. Reedy.
Yes.
Mrs. Bear.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Moving on to item 4A. Do I hear a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss the appointment and/or employment of a public employee?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve item 4A, adjourn to executive session.
Do I hear a second?
Madam President, I second the motion to move into executive session.
Discussion? Mr. Tornello?
Mrs. Bear.
Yes.
Mr. Reedy.
Yes.
Mr. Roskis.
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman.
Yes.
Mrs. Menser.
Yes.
We're in executive session.